Welcome to Sheikh Hamdan's official channel, where truth meets poetry and every word breathes from the heart of Dubai's golden sands. Tonight, the world witnesses a story that dares to defy every boundary set by tradition, a story that proves even royalty can be ruled by love. When the camera turns toward him, there is no crown, no throne, only a man whose eyes reveal a storm of emotion that no title can contain. This is not the tale of a prince bound by protocol. It is the confession of a soul who chose love over legacy, passion over power. It all began on an ordinary evening in the heart of Dubai, when Sheikh Hamdan walked into a world that didn't recognize his title, only his humanity. She wasn't a princess, not a name written in royal scrolls. She was simply a woman who saw him, not the ruler, not the poet, but the man. And in that moment, something unexplainable happened. His destiny, carefully crafted by centuries of expectation, collided with a love that refused to follow the rules. For years, the royal corridors whispered that his heart would belong only to tradition, that he would marry within his world, as was expected of every son of the throne. But love, as it always does, laughed softly at the boundaries of power. Sheikh Hamdan found himself standing at the edge of two worlds, one of royal duty and another of raw, unfiltered feeling. The weight of both pressed upon him like the heat of the desert sun. He tried to resist at first. He buried his emotions beneath endless royal meetings, behind the perfect composure the public adored. Yet love has a way of haunting silence. Every time he looked out at the horizon, he thought of her laughter echoing through the wind. Every poem he wrote became a coded letter to her, every verse a rebellion against the life planned for him. "How can I serve a world that forbids me from feeling alive?" he once wrote, a line that would later shake millions who read it. The decision tore through the palace like thunder. Advisors warned him. Family elders reminded him of his duty, of the crown, of his nation's traditions. But Sheikh Hamdan, with the calm strength of a man who knows his truth, said the words that would mark history. "If love is wrong, then I choose to be wrong forever." Those words echoed across the gulf, silencing those who once believed that love bowed to bloodlines. For the first time, the prince who had lived behind polished perfection became imperfect, and therefore real. He walked away from expectations with grace, not rebellion. He didn't fight his kingdom, he simply followed his heart, believing that true leadership begins with honesty. His courage was not loud, but it was revolutionary. A man born to rule had chosen to feel instead. And in that choice, he gave the world permission to dream beyond boundaries. Sheikh Hamdan's story spread like wildfire. From Dubai's deserts to the skyscrapers that reached heaven, people whispered about his defiance not as scandal, but as salvation. For centuries, love stories had ended in sacrifice, but his was different. He didn't surrender love to protect the crown. He taught the crown to protect love. And in doing so, he redefined what it means to be royal. The woman who stole his heart became a mystery to the world. He protected her identity fiercely, not out of secrecy, but out of sacred respect. "She does not belong to the public," he once said, "she belongs to my heart." Those words melted even the coldest walls between power and tenderness. Every time he was asked about her, his smile gave the answer his silence couldn't hide. Behind the grandeur of royal life, their love grew quietly, rooted in mutual respect and unspoken understanding. She didn't seek his title, she cherished his soul. And that, perhaps, was what set her apart. In her eyes, he wasn't the Sheikh of Dubai. He was simply Hamdan, the man who wrote poems by moonlight and carried kindness like a crown invisible to all but her. There were nights when they walked beneath the desert sky, where no guards.
In the months that followed his bold decision, the world began to see Sheikh Hamdan not just as a prince, but as a symbol of fearless love. His every public appearance carried a quiet power, an unspoken message that strength was no longer measured by obedience to tradition, but by the courage to honor one's heart. Even the elders who once doubted him began to see the light behind his choice. His calmness, His renewed energy and his unshakable grace silenced the critics who had once called his love a mistake. What they didn't realize was that love had not weakened him, it had awakened him. The woman beside him became his quiet fortress, the peace behind his smile. She was never seen in the lavish limelight, never sought the noise of attention, but her presence was undeniable in the serenity that surrounded him. Together they built a love that didn't need validation. True love, Sheikh Hamdan said during one of his rare speeches, does not shout, it simply shines. And shine it did. His eyes told the story his lips often guarded, a story of loyalty, sacrifice, and a devotion that defied every written rule. Dubai itself seemed to evolve with him. The city of golden towers began to embrace the softer side of power, one that believed in compassion, creativity, and emotion as much as leadership. Young people started to quote his poems in their wedding vows, artists painted him as the Prince of Courage, and lovers whispered his lines beneath moonlit balconies. What began as controversy had turned into a cultural awakening. The world was no longer fascinated by his titles, they were moved by his truth. In private, Sheikh Hamdan often wrote letters he never sent, sealing them with wax and keeping them in a wooden box carved with verses from his favorite poem. Those who caught glimpses of his writings said they spoke not only of love, but of gratitude, for destiny, for forgiveness, and for the rare chance to find a soulmate in a world of masks. She was not chosen by my family, he wrote once, she was chosen by my heart, and that is the only approval that ever mattered. The ink of those words carried more strength than any royal decree ever could. The world watched in awe as Sheikh Hamdan began weaving pieces of their story into his poems. His verses glowed with emotion untamed by etiquette. Love, he wrote, is not a rebellion, it is remembrance. It reminds us that beneath every crown beats a heart. The internet erupted, not with gossip, but with admiration. Millions saw in him a reflection of courage, the kind that comes not from power, but from surrendering to truth. He told her that love, when pure, doesn't need to shout. It exists like the sand, endless, humble, and unbroken. And she told him that tradition, when guided by love, can be rewritten without being disrespected. Together, they crafted a new definition of royalty, one built not on rules, but on heartbeats. He also began to redefine what leadership meant for a new